Hello, hello, hello. It's Diane, PhotoFluence, and I'm very excited to be here today. Can you tell? My arms are waving around. I am very excited. And why, you might ask, am I so excited? I'm planning a trip. And guess where I'm going? Yeah, France. But it's part pleasure and part business research. I am investigating some workshop and retreat locations. So it's going to benefit all of us. I'm doing this for our community. Do you believe me? Yeah, it's true. Now, it's also kind of crazy around here because there's work at the house on either side of mine, and my sweet but very anxious dog, Maggie, it stresses her out. So she has been running around, whining all morning. And I try to calm her. I even meditated with her, calming music. I try to speak to her in a calm tone. Nothing seems to help. But the reason I say that is if you hear some strange noises in the background, that would be Maggie. Just ignore them. She's going to do that all day, probably. Now, what are we going to talk about today? Well, in the spirit of getting back out there and traveling again, although I say that as I see cases are going up again, we're not going to talk about that. We're just going to pretend that's not happening. Sure, that might be head in the sand mentality, but right now, that's what I need to do. So when we're planning for our trip, what does that look like? If you recall, I wrote a whole blog post about planning, but let's get more specific today, shall we? And this can be a big trip like I'm going to France. And it can also be I'm not quite ready for a big trip, but I'm going to take a weekend. Either way, there are some things you have to do beforehand to make sure that you're ready. Now, of course, you're going to need some stuff. It's photography, right? You don't do that with a paintbrush. You do it with all of this. Notice the background. Yeah, French macarons, one of my favorites. I will be partaking in them when I travel there in October. Hey, if you're watching this and you live in France and you want to meet up in Bordeaux or Paris, perhaps, I might be swinging down to Toulouse. Who knows? I haven't really worked out the whole itinerary yet. Let me know. Now, there are so many things to think about when it comes to equipment and gear, and I know that everybody travels in a very different way. So let's talk through this. You have a camera, you have lens, you have a way to carry your camera around, you have a backpack, a bag that you carry all your stuff in. Extra batteries, memory cards, backup drives, maybe a computer, a tripod, maybe. Here are the things to think about as you're starting to get ready for your trip. Now, whether you've gone on big trips before and done a lot of photography, none of us have gone on big trips for a while, very likely. So it's a good chance to step back. First of all, do inventory on what you do have and think about, because I think it's easy to get in the habit of you just throw a bunch of stuff in the bag. Well, think about these things before you do that. How much do you want to carry? Before you think you have to take something, think about, will you be mostly walking or driving? Like, do you take a tour bus, or do you get, one of the tour vans that you just kind of drive around in? Or do you do a lot of walking? How much do you take with you every day when you walk? Do you want to carry a big backpack with you? Think about those kinds of things. How long will you be gone? And what's your workflow? And if you think, I don't really have one, think about that. And it doesn't have to be complicated. It can be, I want to back up my images so I don't lose them all, so I might want an external hard drive. I want to edit my photos on the road, or I don't want to. So as you work through all those questions, it'll give you a little more insight into what you want to bring with you. So let's go back here. You're going to need some sort of bag or backpack to carry all the stuff. If you want to take night photos, you might want some sort of tripod. You're always going to want an extra battery and the charger. I suggest a memory card per day. That way, if one is corrupt or if you lose one, you have backup. And you don't lose the whole trip, you might only lose one, depending on if you back it up. I recommend keeping those in 2 cases, one that says used, one that says unused, so you can keep track of which ones have photos on them and which ones are ready to get photos on them. And then I like to back up on an external hard drive. So even if I don't bring my laptop, I bring the external hard drive. This is a great one, and I have a link to all this stuff so you can see what I like. You just stick the memory card in there, you download your photos, and then you can see all your files with an app on the phone, so you know they're in there. Then you keep the memory card, you have it on the hard drive, you got 2 copies. You stick the new memory card in the next day, and voila, no photos lost. And then of course you have to figure out your camera. You probably already have one, maybe you're going to get a new one. How many lenses do you take if you have that option? What kind of strap? Please don't tell me you still use the strap that goes around your neck that came with your camera. They're so uncomfortable. There are some good options. Okay, to see my recommendations, this is what works best for me. So I kept getting questions on which strap do you use, which this do you use. So I put them all on bephotofluent.com/tools. And it has links also. They're affiliate links, so I do get a little commission, but it doesn't change the price of anything. It just helps you. So you see the picture, you see the description, and you think, okay, now I have to go search for it. No, you don't. You just click the link. It'll take you to a location where you can see more details. And then if that's something you want, you can purchase it from right there. But it's really to give you an idea of what I find the most valuable. Absolutely do your own research, though. And yes, of course, I created a checklist. I love checklists. It makes me sane. When I start to get like crazy in the head and thoughts swirling around and I can't keep track of stuff, a checklist is what keeps it together. So I'll give you the link so you can get your copy. 2 checklists I have. 1, packing. These are the things I take when I travel. There's also some blanks because you might have your own things that you want to add in there. And if I've missed something key, let me know. I want to add it in there. And then there's a second checklist, and it's more of a daily as you go out. So I'm getting ready to pack for a 2-week trip. This is what I have to bring. Now, every day when I leave my hotel room, I got to make sure I do these things so that I'm ready to take photos. And these are based on my own mistakes, going out for a photo shoot and forgetting some key things. So learn from my mistakes. Here we go. We're very unhappy here today. I'm so sorry for her, and I wish there was something I could do to help. There's not. All right. Now, of course, we know photography is about so much more than gear. Now, if you're like me, I kind of like some of the gear stuff. It's fun, but it's a sliver of what I like about photography. It's also about the storytelling, the lighting, the composition, perspective, interpretation, and creativity. And if you're thinking, okay, how do I prepare for all that? Well, you think about where you're going and are you ready to capture it? Do you feel confident in picking up your camera and starting to go through the packing checklist and do the inventory of your stuff? Are you excited? Are you looking forward to it? Or are you thinking, I wish I would have picked up this camera a month ago? Because there's so much when you're on the road that is unpredictable, like light in the middle of the day that you can't control. So are you comfortable with the light and how to capture different things in different lighting and how to use your camera? How do you prepare for those? Well, first of all, some of you have taken some courses from me that you've never opened. I can see if you've opened them before and you haven't. Karen, I'm talking to you. Brush off the camera courses, the photography courses that you've purchased, and recycle those. Get in there and get your camera out. Practice now. That's going to make you feel more comfortable. And look at other photographers for inspiration. Get on Instagram and find other travel photographers that you like their style and follow them and just look at their photos. It really just gives you ideas. Now, if you need help, if you're starting to get stressed about it, you can always schedule a VIP day or a one-to-one mentoring session with me, and I'll put the link in the post so you can get more details and sign up for that. Because sometimes an online course just doesn't do it, and you need some feedback and some individual attention, and that's what I do. What I want for you is to feel comfortable that you're going to come back with good photos. And right now, if the last year was hard on all of us, and if it was one of those things, you see people on social media that say, I learned how to paint. I now speak 3 languages. I didn't do that, let me just tell you. So if you're one of those people that didn't get out your camera because you were a little down in the dumps, you struggled with all the trauma that we were collectively going through, and you instead binge watch Netflix, you know what? No judgment. I watched a whole lot of French series on Netflix and Amazon Prime. So don't beat yourself up for it. Right now, it is what it is. If you're traveling in 2 weeks or a month, you have 2 weeks or a month to prepare. So don't try to cram in a year's worth of learning in that time. We're going to let it go, and we're just going to do what we can do with the time we have. Okay? So when you get where you're going, you want to be comfortable that, I'm going to come back with some good pictures. So think about, where are you going? How do you want to experience the place and culture? Then how do you want to interpret it in photos? Are there specific places, events, scenes that you want to make sure to photograph? Like this photo we went past, that's the Louvre in Paris. So if you've already been to Paris, maybe you're not going to the Louvre and the Eiffel Tower and the standard kind of list. So where are you going to go? And are there certain things you want to capture? Now, I tend to have a hybrid model in my planning. I don't go all in and plan out every minute. A lot of travel photography classes and posts talk about planning and exactly what time, exactly what location. I'm not that structured. So I will plan a couple of things that I think, I know I'm going to want to be there for sunrise or sunset. Like this scene, I wanted to be there at sunset, and I knew that ahead of time. I didn't do this every day. I did it here. That's London. I sometimes forget to say where it is. I think most people would look at that and say London, but just in case, this is Albi, France. This was more of a happy coincidence. I thought that's a beautiful scene. Sunset would be nice. But by the end of the day, I was tired and I was hungry and I just wanted to go to dinner. So I grabbed my camera and took it with me on the way to dinner, thinking if it works out, great. And it did. Now this one, middle of the day, no planning. I'm just walking around capturing the sights of Bordeaux. So think about this ahead of time. How do you want a list of things that you want to for sure capture at certain times or not? And either one is okay, but if you have some thoughts about it ahead of time, it'll just make your trip a little less stressful. There is an entire blog post about planning. I will link to that one too, because that's a good one, if I do say so myself. Now, here's the other factor. It's also about believing in yourself and releasing your expectation for perfection. Let's say that again. Believing in yourself and releasing your expectation for perfection. You have a certain amount of time before you go on your next trip. Maybe you haven't planned it yet and you might have 3 months. Either way, figure out what will make you happy for your trip. If you have, say, 3 months and you want to go all in and really work hard, you want to schedule some time with me and get that camera out and learn this and be really good at it, great, let's do that. If, on the other hand, you're scheduled for 2 weeks from now and you cannot remember a thing about camera settings and it just stresses you out to think about it, you know what? Put it in automatic. Think about some storytelling, some composition ideas, and do whatever you're comfortable with. If you put your camera in automatic, do you feel pretty comfortable that you'll come back with at least a few good ones? Then shoot in automatic. Doesn't make you not a photographer. It doesn't make you anything. It's just a choice that will alleviate some stress and make your trip a little more pleasant and will give you some reassurance that you don't have to worry about all this stuff. So figure out ahead of time and come to a place where you can release the fact that you don't work for National Geographic and these don't all have to be the best, most fabulous photos of all time, unless you want them to be, and then let's work toward that. But that's something you have to come to with yourself. Let's talk about this photo. This is also an Albee. And this goes back to my don't expect perfection of yourself. And I can't tell you how much I wanted to love this photo, but I couldn't. And I loved the starburst effect. I loved the path, the leading lines. I wanted the people to be a little more prominent. I didn't like that. And then my husband, completely inadvertently, he's not a critical person at all, said, I wish the walls on each side would be even at the bottom, like they came to the same point on the frame. And I was done. Now, he's an architect. Things have to be aligned or they fall over. So that's the perspective he's coming from. But after he said that, that's all I could see in this photo. But it feels like this sunny, this leading path that you think, I want to go down that. You know, the vines overhead. It looks like this beautiful sunny tunnel that you want to walk through, and people have walked through. So you want to go over there and say, who are you? What are you doing? Are you having a great day? You see the gardens on the side. You know what? I did learn to love it because it doesn't have to be perfect. It's your photo, you created it. Just love it for what it is. This captures a moment when we were in Albee that I'll never forget because I have the photo. And it is sunny and bright, and I did learn to love it. Don't go through that whole mind thing that I went through. Just look at it and think, yep, I love it. It doesn't have to be perfect. That's what I ask for you. All right, so if you want to watch the replay and a lot more videos, head over to my YouTube channel at bephotofluent.com/YouTube, and don't forget to subscribe. If you want to read the blog post I was referring to, that is bephotofluent.com/blog/planning. And if you want to join our private Facebook group, come on over, PhotoFluent Travelers. And if you have not heard, I am hosting a photo storytelling retreat in Tuscany. So imagine olive groves, truffle hunting, pizza making, wine tasting, medieval villages, and we're going to be working together on telling your story of that adventure. 6 nights, get all the details, and sign up. There's only 10 spots. Here's the link. Of course, I'll link to it in the post too, so you can just click it. It's so much easier. Hey, thanks for showing up today. And I look forward to hearing your comments. I will post to all the stuff I mentioned in here in this post. I'll link to all this stuff in the post. I'd love to hear your comments. One of the pieces of feedback I want from you: where are you going next and when? Do you have a trip planned? Are you excited about it? And what do you think about when you pack? When you prepare for a trip, what do you think about? Let me know. Have a fabulous day. It's getting close enough. I'm going to say have a fabulous weekend, and I'll see you very soon.